Hi everyone, welcome to Cheese Happy Hour. I'm going to go ahead and start recording. Hopefully you can come on and join in. We don't have anybody on just yet, but if you are joining us from one of the other destinations, we've got it going on YouTube for the very first time. Hi, YouTube, everyone. We also have folks joining us from Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook. So, hi, everyone. Welcome to Cheese the People's Cheese Happy Hour. I have a new background due to circumstances beyond all of our controls. The storms that are happening right now have kind of forced me to move locations once again. Hi, Bob and Deb. Welcome. I am actually using a secret location. I can't tell you where I'm at, but it's in order to get out of the storm and into a location with strong internet access so that the stream maintains strong service throughout. We are doing a really fun and kind of special cheese happy hour today. It is called Julius Caesar Love This Cheese. And we are going to be doing some really fun things. Great. We've got a couple people joining, and we're going to wait another couple of minutes to get started. But those who have joined, if you want to move over to the website, cheesetothepeople.com, that way you can chat with me as I'm broadcasting. That would be great. If not, no worries, no pressure. It's just a way for me to be able to comment on what you're saying to me or wanting questions answered. It's also a great way to engage. I would love to know, as people are joining, what are you drinking tonight? Tonight, I've actually gone totally alcohol-free. I had some wine, but I thought it was a good night to just go alcohol-free and talk a little bit about options for people who are non-drinkers. But I still want to know what wine and cocktails and beer everybody's having, because that's always really important to me. Bob and Deb, what are you drinking tonight? Are you drinking wine? Are you doing something else? Nothing at all? Doesn't matter, but would love to get engaged in the conversation. Cool. We've got a few more people joining. Hi, everyone. Say hi via the chat if you are on the website and can do so. Please say hi. Would love to know that you're here. And cool. Toby's on the website. They're drinking a Meritage from Virginia. Cool. I just hit up Virginia wine country this weekend with a friend. Myself will go into that later. But all right, so Toby's drinking Meritage from Virginia. Bob and Deb are going German Riesling and French Pinot Noir. I like your styles. Both of those are great with what we're having tonight. Yeah, if you go to the new cheese profiles that I just put up for all of these cheeses, you'll see that Riesling, especially sweet stale Rieslings with the Roquefort in particular, golden options. So let's go ahead and get started. We will wait for no man anymore because we're talking about Julius Caesar and Charlemagne and ancient cheese, and there's no time to waste. So we're going to get started with Brie Fermier. Yeah. How many of you who are out there have noticed, if you picked up your packages from Arrow Wine and Cheese, like you should have, because this is the way it works, is you buy your cheese from Arrow Wine the day of, you pick it up, you bring it home, you join me for happy hour, or not the day of, you can do it afterwards, it doesn't matter. Anyways, it is some good smelling Brie, and it's super ripe. Scott and I were talking earlier how ripe the Brie was, and he wasn't joking. I took it out of the package, I could barely get it out. It was so gooey and delicious looking. All right. I don't know what you guys are doing, but I did a little cracker action today to kind of, break up the creaminess of two of our cheeses tonight. So we've got Brie Fermier to start out with. We've got a little cheese called Secret de Compostelle from the Basque region of France, not Spain, France. And then we have Roquefort. So we went all French today, inadvertently so. Basque, they're their own people, I feel. Okay, cool. Doreen has joined us, but she's having issues with the video. Let me see here. It looks like we're doing okay, so I'm not sure what the problem is. I'm so sorry, Doreen. Goodness. Let's see here. I'm going to just type a little something to Doreen. Guys. All right. Just getting Doreen situated. So anyways, hopefully she can join and the video starts working for her. Anyways, okay, we're going to go into Brie Fermier. Brie Fermier is the closest thing to Brie AOP that we can get here in the United States. So Brie Fermier is actually a pasteurized version of the real deal. It is delightful. This one is brought to us from Fromy, but it's also the way Fromy works, and we'll get into a little bit more later, is that they actually have partnerships with cheese producers all over France. And so this one is actually made by a farm southeast of Paris called Tremblay and Tremblay farm, and they specialize in bries and they also specialize in goat cheeses. But they really kind of specialize. They only have like a couple of things that they do. They really specialize in bries, goat cheeses, and then blue cheeses made out of both cow's milk and goat's milk. They make this brie specifically for Fromy to go ahead and move over across the Atlantic to us. Yay, Doreen was able to get it. Cool. So this one is as close to the real deal as we can possibly make it. They use Jersey and Holstein cow milk. They've got 150 cows. They're right next to a national park. They basically are what Joel Salatin here in Virginia actually talks about, and they are grass farmers. The reason they are grass farmers is because they grow grass for their animals to eat, because they are all pasture raised, organic farm, totally delightful. They're doing everything that they possibly can to make this Brie Fermier as close to the real thing as they possibly can. And the real thing is there's two Brie AOPs in the world. It's Brie de Meaux and Brie de Melun. So Brie is actually not named after a town, a specific town. It was actually the name of this historic area of the region outside of Paris, about 30 miles outside of Paris, to the southeast. And now the area for Brie is actually kind of wraps around and is all to the east, but it's sometimes to the north, wrapping around Paris to the south. And really, we're talking the burbs at this point. We're not talking about out in the countryside like it used to be when Marie Antoinette had her palace out there and her farm, which is actually right in the middle of where Brie production was. But this is actually now the suburbs of Paris. And part of the area that would have traditionally made Brie is in Paris proper now. So these Brie de Melun, Brie de Meaux. Brie de Meaux is actually from kind of northeast of Paris, and then Brie de Melun is from southeast of Paris. Why does this matter? Well, Brie, the thing that we think of as Brie, is not really Brie. The thing that you have on your plate right now is as close as we can get, but Brie is actually a really, really, really old cheese. It's actually been made since the 8th century. And it kind of goes into how cheese making techniques have developed over time. So you started with kind of fresh cheeses, kind of like what we had the last time with a fresh goat cheese. And then as technology got better and better and better, they started making soft ripened cheeses. Well, Brie de Meaux and Brie de Melun, the reason they have the AOP is that they have been the longest established. Now, They think that Brie actually originated Brie de Melun, but the most popular now is Brie de Meaux. So we're going to go into kind of what these places look like. Charlemagne kind of put Brie on the map the first time. I'll show you him. This is actually his mortuary bust. Not to be a little bit morbid, but his skull is inside of that. Anyways, so he basically fell in love with Brie de Meaux. I'm going to bring up what the Ile de Paris looks like, or the traditional area called Brie. Meaux is, as you can see, just up to the side of Paris, just above it, and then you go down, and Melun is right on the Seine River, southeast of Paris. I'm going to show you what Meaux is most famous for now, and that is this beautiful, or this is Meaux. So Meaux is this beautiful little town. You can see the gorgeous, gorgeous little Gothic cathedral or church that's there. It's right on the Seine, just really, really beautiful. And then I'm going to show you Melun, also right on the river. And this is the Chateau de Vaux-le-Vicomte. And this is a chateau that is just outside of Melun. It is the chateau that supported the village of Melun since the 17th century, so it was built in the 1600s. And the problem is that it actually, they destroyed 3 villages to put it up. So Melun survived and benefited from the estate. The estate itself actually inspired Louis XIV to build Versailles, and he kind of did a bad thing. He arrested the guy who built the chateau and took a bunch of his stuff in order to put it in Versailles. Side note. But anyways, Brie has been kind of known as one of those cheeses that royalty, especially French kings, because Louis XIV wasn't a guest at this chateau often, due to the Viscount who owned it was one of his most closely regarded, lords, until he actually arrested him and, put him in prison for the rest of his life. But, that's kind of how it worked back then. So not to be flippant, but anyways, Brie has been around since the 8th century. Charlemagne fell in love with it, and that's kind of what put it on the map. Now, the big difference between Brie de Meaux, Brie de Melun, and what you have in front of you, which is really quite tasty, and if you haven't had a little bit of it just yet, you should probably do that. I'm going to have a little bit right now. Is that Brie de Meaux, they think, started a little bit later. It's a larger wheel. It can be up to 5 pounds, and that's for a cheese that's only an inch thick. That's pretty big. They actually, they still do the process by hand, and they break up the curds, but they actually use shovels to get it into the hoops to form the cheese and to drain it. Brie de Melun is smaller, a little bit thicker, a little bit older, and definitely done by hand. So all of the work for Brie de Melun done by hand. You cannot find Brie de Melun here in the United States. If you can, it's very, very rare, and you should buy it if you can find it, but you shouldn't be able to find it because it's generally not available. It is, though, the cheese that is done raw, and it can be aged for 60 days, which means that it could be for sale here. Now, that's the biggest difference between what you are learning about and what you're actually eating, because Brie Fermier is a pasteurized version. That's pretty much the difference between what you're getting in an AOP cheese versus what you're getting right here is the pasteurization process. And that is because this guy in front of you is aged for about a month, but it is U.S. law. The USDA has said you cannot have an unpasteurized cheese that is in the U.S. being sold with less than 60 days of age on it. We miss out on some flavor. I'm going to be honest with you. We miss out on a little flavor. But this is a very good alternative. Okay. So, ooh, that is some good brie. You get like, the cool thing about this brie is that you move beyond the butter stage and the nice button mushroom stage, which is very, very nice. Don't get me wrong. And you've moved into the gooey, the savory, the kind of wild element of brie. Brie can be a little animalistic, which this one definitely is. And then this is also a brie that is totally showing some really awesome like broccoli and cauliflower flavors on it, which sounds weird in cheese, but it's awesome. It really is. It's really good. You pair this thing with a Rioja or, that Meritage that Toby's having tonight, and oh my goodness, so delicious, right? This is definitely a soft cheese that you can go hardcore in terms of the flavor profiles. You can do this with artichokes. You could do the sucker with asparagus. You could melt this over asparagus, and that would be delightful right now. And very seasonal, might I add. Okay. Cool. Doreen, what are you drinking tonight, by the way? I'm having a little ginger beer. Reed's, as a matter of fact. Picked it up the other day. It's delightful. You can actually, this blended with like pomegranate juice or with like blackberry juice, really, really good mocktail situation. Perfect with cheese, has a nice little bite. Cool. Yes, Bob and Deb, it is just like eating vegetables. This brie is. That is true. Okay, moving on to a little bit more information about the farm that produces this cheese. They are actually right by a forest called the Rambouillet Forest, and this forest actually inspires Tremblay farms in their farming practices. So this is a farm, or this is a forest actually, that's very, very well known in France for its forestry services. So having really like a light hand in terms of how the forest is maintained, and that has inspired the family that owns this farm to do the same thing with their farmstead. So they do not plow their fields at all. They use the animals to kind of do their grazing. They do sow, but they sow like ancient grasses and grains and herbs into the fields so that the cows actually have a really diverse diet. And that's really important. Cows have, I think I've mentioned this before, cows have different eyesight than we do. They look at a field and all of the things that they want to eat, all the tasty bits, those show up blue in their vision. So if you ever wonder why a cow eats the way that it does out in pasture, it's because it's like literally got like eyesight that just narrows right into exactly what they want. Now, the goats that they have on the farm, they eat everything else, which makes it easy. I think, at least. Okay. So they have developed this relationship with Fromy. Fromy is a company, and I think I've talked about them before in the past, but we're going to go into it again. They are located in the very, very top of the Rhone Valley, and that is an area that's in Alsace, and it's very, very close to the German border. Now, this is part of France where Germany and France have like gone like this with the borders, like a lot over the past 300 years. And so it looks very Bavarian. The French sounds a little German. That's okay. The food is very alpine. It's like really heavy stuff. I mean, you get like lots of cheese and cured meats and all kinds of stuff. So the gentleman who founded Fromy, Xavier David, in 1969, the way he worked it was he had actually he's from this little area, and he had developed relationships with people in Germany. And he obviously knew cheese producers in his own kind of region. So what he started to do is he started to export French cheeses that were traditional into Germany to sell. And some of those cheeses had to be pasteurized due to German law. So basically, he started developing relationships with French producers to export good cheese into Germany, and that's how his business started. And so right from pretty much 2 years after he actually founded Fromy, he's been doing the same thing that he works with Tremblay Farms doing. He develops that relationship with a good producer, and then they make a cheese under the Fromy name, and then the Fromy people market it and export it on their end, which is actually a really kind of a cool thing, because you're actually then showing people the beauty of French products, but you're also honoring that tradition, but you're also doing it in such a way as everybody is happy. So the next cheese that we're getting actually is available through Fromy, but is not a Fromy cheese. So this is called Secret de Compostelle. Now, there's a lot of misinformation on the interweb about this cheese. It's really interesting. I was reading, doing my research, and there's lots of different kind of, theories and, like, this is really the truth. It's not. The secret of the Secret de Compostelle is actually just that this cheese is a sister cheese to Osau Arati and Abbé de Bellac. So Osau Arati is a gorgeous Basque cheese. By the way, this cheese is strictly made by a company called Agur, and they only do Basque cheeses, and they have a line of meats and things like that. They are kind of this massive powerhouse in Basque food production, and they have a mission, much like Fromy, to introduce Basque food to the world. And so Osau Arati, which this cheese is based off of, is named after this beautiful place. This is the Osau Valley in the Pyrenees, right kind of in the middle of the area of the Pyrenees. It's like right in the middle, and it's on the French side, but it's like bumping right up against the border with Spain. So you have kind of Spanish cheeses and French cheeses made in this very distinct style. The other place that it's named after is this place. This is the Irati Forest. So outside of the valley, this is actually what you see is the Irati Forest. So Osau Arati is named after these two places, right kind of smack dab in the middle of Basque Country in France. But they are using sheep that would be very, very appropriate for both sides of the border. So Basque sheep. And in this case, it's made of milk that is not from the Osau Valley or the Irati Forest. It's from areas kind of surrounding that space. And so due to that difference, they cannot call this cheese Osau Arati. They use the same exact recipe, but they cannot call it Osau Arati because that name is protected by the AOP. They do make really good AOP, Osau Arati and Abbé de Bellac. They've won a couple of world cheese competitions, World's Best Cheese, for their Osau Arati. But this is basically a cheese that they can make using a wider array of milk. There is, and I haven't gotten clarification on this yet, there is the possibility that this is also made with pasteurized cheese. I think it is, but I have not yet received confirmation of that. I'm still waiting for that. As soon as I do, it'll be updated on the cheese profile that's up under the cheese files for Secret de Compostelle. Now, the secret is that Agur works with currently 125 very small farmers, and their secret is the farmers. So the story of Agur, the producer of this lovely cheese, I'm going to have a little bite, sorry. That's tasty. So sweet. Are the farmers. So the farmers are who they call the bankers. And the reason that they call them the bankers is that when they built, the family that started Agur built their cheese factory, they didn't have money for milk. Big problem. But they went around to all of the small farmers in their community and they said, hey, so if you guys bankroll us milk to make the cheese and give us 6 months of milk, we will then pay you back in full once the cheese is ready and sold. And about 25 farmers said yes. So 25 farmers helped Agur get started. And then now, as a repayment, they've expanded the pool of shepherds and farmers that they're utilizing, but they are highly, highly protective of these people. And that's not saying something that's, bad, because Agur, like I said, very powerful company in terms of showing Basque food. Like all Basques, they're very, 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 very proud of being Basque. They actually, if you go to their website, they do have it partially in English, but they have part of it is in the Basque language, and they have as their motto, they have like a Basque saying right underneath their name. They're very, very clear what their intentions are. This cheese is named in honor of the pilgrims that walked the Camino de Santiago, which there's a photo of the statue that's there on the trail. And the label of this cheese, if you ever get a chance to see it, actually has a pilgrim with their walking staff on the cheese. And it is because the secret is that over the centuries, and I'm talking probably 600-700 years, they've had a lot of pilgrims pass through this town where Agur and this cheese comes from, and Osa Arati in general. Osa Arati, by the way, is purported to be the oldest cheese that we know of. So the cheese that this is based off of is at least 2,000 years old. That's the earliest documentation that we have of it. But it's probably longer. So the people that the Basques turned into were originally Celtic. And the Celts had a really sophisticated cheese-making culture. The Celts actually inhabited most of France, and then they went into Spain, and they were actually kind of in the northern part of Spain, which is now Basque Country, almost all the way down to where Madrid is now. So they actually were all over Spain, and they heavily pastoralist society. They made lots of cheese. They actually taught the Romans how to make cheese. So our modern cheese making techniques that we use today are due to the Celts. So this cheese is literally the modern equivalent of what has been made there for literally eons. And over the centuries, you had a knowledge exchange. So the secret of the secret is that this knowledge exchange happened over time between the inhabitants in Basque Country who were making cheese and then all of these pilgrims that were passing through. Where were the pilgrims going? Well, they were going from kind of the French start of the Camino de Santiago to this beautiful place, which is the Compostela de Santiago, which is the very famous pilgrimage site. Most of us don't really know why, but I will tell you right now why this cathedral in northwestern Spain, really like right on the edge of Spain. It's like right in kind of like this divot of Spain above Portugal, right on the ocean. And it is because it is purportedly the burial site of Saint John. I was about to say James, and I knew that was wrong. It was St. John. So these people have been going there. The symbol of the Camino is actually a seashell, because you're actually going from literally the middle of the mountains in right where this cheese is made to the ocean in St. John. So Agur was founded in 1981. I told you about how the shepherds are the reason the company is here today. They actually still work, like I said, with those farmers. They also have started to do other things. They have a cracker factory. They make traditional Basque meats as well, all of which sound delightful with this. Is everybody enjoying this one? I'm really enjoying this one. It's very like floral, kind of like caramel candy, just really delightful. I put a few dates on my board tonight, because ancient cheese deserves a fruit that's been enjoyed for literally thousands of years, and I just think the dates with this would be like fabulous. Okay. Perfect. So now, after enjoying this beautiful Sacre de Compostela and visiting Spain, we are going to go back over the French border, and we're not going to go too far. We're going to Larzac, which is basically in the southern part of France, a little bit to the west of Provence. And this is the part of France that is got a really, really, really cool story. And so before I can talk about Roquefort, the cheese, I have to talk about Roquefort sur Sulzane and the Combloux caves, where originated this cheese. So basically we have to go all the way back to the Jurassic to talk about why this cheese is here today. So early Jurassic, the Larzac plain, well, now plateaus, multiple because of some of these things that we're going to talk about. It was under a shallow sea. And this sea, it might be St. James. Now I'm not sure. Thanks, Bob and Deb. You've made me unsure about myself. Hold on, please. I will look this up. I will look this up later because I'm not finding it immediately. I could be saying St. John and I really mean St. James. See, I get things wrong every once in a while. See? All right. So going to the Jurassic. So the Larzac is under this, shallow sea, and you have a lot of crustaceans and things that are kind of calcareous in terms of their skeleton structure. And over time, they die, and then they fall to the bottom of the ocean. They form limestone. So this limestone actually is very common in France. So you have pockets of it in the Loire Valley where Sancerre is grown, and you have pockets of it in Burgundy and for sure in Chablis, and then for sure in Champagne. So the chalky limestone soils are kind of the core of beautiful food throughout France, and Roquefort is no different. So early Jurassic, this sea is there. All of these animals die. They create the foundations of the limestone. Then towards the end of the Jurassic, there's a huge kind of volcanic series of eruptions. So in the same area. So you have these kind of tubes that are formed from the volcanoes, and those start deteriorating the limestone, because limestone is one of those rocks that once you kind of get into it, then rainwater starts seeping through, and rainwater will further deteriorate limestone. It's very susceptible to it. It is St. James. Thank you, Bob and Deb. I was right and I was wrong at the same time. Thank you very much for clarifying. Rainwater after the volcanoes ended, over the eons, continued to kind of carve through these limestone cliffs, and erosion happened around it. And so basically what happened is that several million years ago, the entire cliff of plateau of limestone that is now where Roquefort-sur-Soulzon is collapsed. And when it did that, it formed all of these caverns all over the place. And these caverns have lots of air holes leading out to the surface. That creates airflow, obviously, but limestone is like a sponge. And so it basically, when it rains, it sucks up all that water really, really fast, and then it slowly releases it, right? That formed a really humid environment in these caverns. And limestone is also really good at knocking off heat. So basically, what it did is it formed these caves that had a high humidity, had like consistent temperatures around 50 degrees, and had good air circulation. What does this cause? This causes mold. And mold is the secret to Roquefort because it formed a very specific strain of penicillium. So penicillium, obviously we know penicillin, that's one strain of this mold. There are literally millions of strains of penicillium. And so it's dumb luck that Penicillium roqueforti was developed in these caves, but it's very good dumb luck for us because we get good cheese out of it. So now we have to fast forward several million years to about 6,000 years ago, when sheep start coming into the area along with their humans. So sheep are particularly good for this type of terrain. It's very rugged, but you have lots of garrigue, lots of herbs and wild grasses that are delicious to sheep on the hillsides in Larzac. And I think I may have a good picture of that. Hold on, let me see. I don't. I do have a picture of Roquefort-sur-Soulzon, so you can kind of see. So you can see this is the limestone plateau in the background, and then you see the rugged mountains, and then you see kind of these beautiful fields with garrigue on it, and then the beautiful little, village of Roquefort on the side of cliff face. So sheep are very, very good for this type of terrain, and so for centuries and centuries, about 1,000, 2,000, probably more than that, they started making cheese, and then they would age the cheese in the caves. Now, there is a legend about Roquefort, about the creation of it. You can read the full thing on the cheese profile on the website, but I'll just give you the synopsized version. It is that about 1,000 years ago, a shepherd was in one of the caves and he was eating his lunch of rye bread and cheese, and a really attractive shepherdess walked by. The shepherd, being him, decided that it was a really great idea to leave his lunch and chase after the shepherdess. Now, we don't know what happened to the shepherdess, but we do know that the shepherd came back, and about a month, 2 months later, and the bread had completely molded over, and the mold had inhabited the cheese. Well, the shepherd, being hungry and obviously not really all that bright, considering his past actions, decided that it was a great idea to eat the cheese. He found that it was delicious. He didn't die. Yay, Roquefort. So, as delightful as that story sounds, maybe for the shepherd, maybe not for the shepherdess, we don't know. We do know that this cheese is very, very, very old. And the reason that we know that is that Pliny the Elder wrote about it. Well, we think he wrote about it. Anyways, we also know that when Julius Caesar decided to have his jaunt through Gaul and conquer everybody, he fell in love with his cheese. And so he actually we know that this cheese is a cheese that the Celts were making, right? But we do also know that the Romans, when they came into Gaul, they learned the cheese making techniques that were there. And Carrie, we don't know if she got the cheese, but we know we got the cheese. So, yay, the shepherdess, whatever happened, go her. Caesar learned how to make cheese from the Celts, this cheese in particular, and then he brought that technology back to Rome. Romans improved on that and then resubmitted all of that to the rest of the world, which is part of the reason that we have the cheese making techniques that we have today. And it's because the Romans were really, really good about spreading their knowledge and technology all over the known world. Roquefort is one of the reasons why. So this cheese is also a Fromy cheese. They actually work with a farm called the Papillon Farms. We know that farm because they are the producers of Papillon Black, which is the most readily available artisanal AOP Roquefort available in the United States. So the reason that we get a lot of Papillon cheese is a lot to do with Fromy because they are one of the largest French cheese exporters to the United States. And it's also it's that and then Société. But I think most people here associate Société Roquefort with like the packages that you can get in the grocery store. And they are the largest producer of Roquefort. Papillon is pretty large, but they're not as large as Société. But they do things as traditionally as they possibly can. So there's a bunch of different AOP rules for Roquefort in particular. Roquefort was the first cheese to receive an AOP right after the formation of the idea, the concept of AOP. So in 1925, Roquefort received the first AOP certification. There are 7 producers today that produce AOP Roquefort. And it's a pretty strict guideline. I think that for cheese, for wine, there's a ton of rules. Those who are wine folks out there in the world today watching, you'll know that, like, you know, when you have an AOP wine, you have to follow a very, very specific set of rules. Roquefort is a cheese that definitely is on the level of many wines in that front. So Lasson sheep are the sheep that are allowed for Roquefort. Now, Lasson sheep are a native sheep to the region, but they were actually not an ancient breed themselves. They were actually bred from 2 ancient sheep breeds in the mid-19th century. And so the reason that they are the ones that are allowed into AOC Roquefort is because they literally came from 2 ancient strains. And even though they were technically a modern breed, they were bred appropriately and they came from ancient stock. So these sheep, Papillon works with several farms, including they have their own herd. They have their own animals, and they also work with farmers. They follow all of the AOC guidelines for Roquefort, and then they do stuff on top of that. So they do things like they bake the rye bread under a full moon once a year, and that's what they use to get the mold going. Now, the cool thing about the Combloux caves is that each cave has its own distinct strain of Penicillium roqueforti. And that strain, each cave belongs to a different producer, right? So you have the set of caves that belong to Papillon. You have the set of caves that belong to Société. You have, the caves that belong to, I'm trying to pull out another Roquefort producer out of my head, and I'm not doing that right now, so we're just going to say Joe Schmo. But each cave has its own distinctive character. And that has a lot to do with how Roquefort tea was developed over the millennia in these caves on their own, but it also has a lot to do with what has happened over the past 6,000 years with people interacting with those caves, aging cheese in those caves, and then continuing to have their own methods for doing this. So at Papillon, they use traditional rye bread to propagate the mold. And then basically what they do is they don't have bread in the actual cheese. What they do is they grow the mold over the top of the cheese, and then they scrape the mold off of that cheese, and they basically turn that into like a powder. And then when they make the cheese, they actually break up the curd by hand into pieces that are about the size of a corn kernel. What happens when they do that? Oh, by the way, here's a picture of a Lausanne sheep. Oh, darn it. It's very cute. There you go. You got a second of it. If you want to see more, there is a whole section of the website devoted to breeds of animals that make our cheese, if you're at all curious. I don't know if you are, but if you aren't, it's there if you ever want it. And there's a picture of Lausanne sheep there. Pardon me. So I'm going back to the chat just to see where we're at. Basically, Papillon takes the cheese kernels, little kernels of curds, and they pile them into the cylinder forms that form Roquefort. Roquefort is, you get like kind of these quarter pieces of the wheel, and the whole wheel is actually a cylinder. That creates just kind of piled in there, just let to settle, right? They don't like press the cheese. They don't poke holes in the cheese. They literally allow those little curds, the gaps between them and the air pockets, to form the pockets of Roquefort. So that's why Roquefort looks very, very different than other blue cheeses. And that's because it's a natural fissures in the cheese that create the pockets for the mold to grow. So they put the wheels of cheese in the caves on oak beams. Basically, their caves are just like covered with these shelves of oak beams. And what they do is they actually salt the beams in order to provide the right environment for all the bacteria and other molds that need to happen in order to ripen Roquefort properly. So there's a whole ancient process that Papillon uses to produce this style of cheese, which is why Fromy actually called it Roquefort tradition emotion. And it's because there's a passion behind this type of production of Roquefort. Société, they follow all of the guidelines, but they're not going to take it to the level that Papillon takes it to produce this cheese. So this cheese is real AOP cheese, and they're using all of these really amazing techniques that were developed for over 1,000 years. Now, you may have mixed feelings. I have mixed feelings about how Julius Caesar handled the whole situation in Gaul. It wasn't the most pleasant thing that he did, but we did get this beautiful cheese as a result of just eons of people working with sheep in this beautiful area of France and making cheese and putting them in a cave. So this is literally the coolest thing about Roquefort is that it is literally a product of nature and human interaction and it coming together to create something that's really, 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 really beautiful. Yeah? So that is the show today. I hope that you all enjoyed it. Did everybody enjoy their chocolate-covered almonds? Because these are delightful if you didn't get a chance to taste them. Somebody actually is having the Roquefort with rye crackers. Fabulous idea. I would suggest also doing like a little rye bread every once in a while just to kind of keep the tradition going of Roquefort with rye. Comes full circle in the end. I like it. Anyways, if anybody has any questions, please let me know. I want to hear your questions. Anybody out there have some questions for me? Oh, by the way, if you all have just joined me, are you having a beverage? I'm having Reed's ginger. It's the original ginger beer with my cheese tonight. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed the show. I just do want to do a little plug. If you are on the website, off to the side of the screen, you will see a button, and that button is for extra donations going towards pancreatic cancer research. So those of you who actually purchased the box today, at least $5 of your box is going directly to pancreatic cancer research. And then you have the additional option of adding more to your donation through the button off to the side. I hope you take advantage of that. If you are joining us from one of the other places, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, I'm on YouTube for the first time. Weird, but cool during a thunderstorm. And you can also just go to the website, cheesetothepeople.com, go to Cheese Happy Hours, and then you'll see today's live screen. Off to the side of it, you'll see the button so that you can go ahead and donate more to pancreatic cancer research. And it is in honor of a dear friend who passed last week. After a very long, hard battle. Sorry. So, in his honor, Tom Howard, please donate today. Oh, sorry, ugly cry. Ooh, bad. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed today. If anybody has any other questions, please feel free to email me, kevans@cheesetothepeople.com. That's kevans@cheesetothepeople.com. If anybody has any questions today, right now, please let me know. I'm here. I'm physically here, ready to answer anything. Okay, all right. If that's it, then that's it. Have a great evening, everyone, and I will see you in a couple weeks. I'm getting together with Scott this next week to determine what the next few happy hours are going to be. We're going to have a little break in June while I do a little move, but we'll pick it back up. We'll probably do one more before that, and then we'll pick it back up late June. And maybe we can arrange for it to be more of an outdoor kind of gathering. I did try today to kind of think through that, but with the weather being a little unsettled, we didn't think that it was such a good idea. But maybe we can go ahead and do it the next time. So anyways, have a great evening. Oh, thanks, guys. Love the love. Thanks so much for your time, and have a great evening. And we'll see you the next time at Cheese Happy Hour. In the meantime, if you do want to join in on the fun and have the cheeses that we talked about today, please feel free to purchase your cheese box from Arrow Wine. It's available for the next month. The Ancient Cheese package is available for the next month. Through their cheese shop. You can order it online, not a problem, and then just go pick it up on your free time. And then you can log back into the website or YouTube in order to watch this live stream again. Again, have a great weekend, have a great week, and enjoy your cheese. Bye.